Morning. Just here around it's 9:33 a.m. the day after Easter 2025. Jonathan, if you're new here, and most people would be at this point, by the way, welcome. This is my favorite, one of my favorite times of the day, especially days when I'm working. So I have to be at work soon, but I've helped my mom. I got her ready to go for while I'm at work, and I just have basically a few moments to chill out before I go. A little coffee helps with that too sometimes. Having some kind of a morning ritual is usually a good thing, whether it's meditation or drinking some water, normally it's a group of things. I think what it comes down to is it's basically good to make some time for yourself right off the bat before you start engaging with the world at large. It's a good way to get your head on street, make sure you're ready, or as ready as you're going to be, and go from there. I have an impulse, I think we all do, to not just consume, not just buy the things, but to create, to produce, to manifest even, if you will. And I think that's what I'm trying to do here, but when you're trying to do something like this, it's not just about you, obviously. Like, there is an audience, there is a customer, potentially, there is somebody that you're trying to entertain or keep their attention, or and I don't like to think about it too much, because I'll get technical, think about it like that, and try to over complicate things and over target things to the point where you can kill it going too far, right? And this is like going, to some degree, I think it is like going 100% the other way, and that can also be a problem. So I'm trying to find, it's sort of a balance. I don't think that always makes sense to talk about balance, but because there's counterbalances that can work that are not, it's like an inherently imbalanced thing that works when I'm going to go hard this way, hard that way, and that can balance itself out in its own way too. If that makes any sense. I'm rambling. I don't know. I think I'm still waking up, actually, too, a little bit here. But the sort of, I guess, irony of doing something like this, shooting yourself and putting it on the internet, like, it's on the surface level, it's all about me, but it's really got to be it's for me. That's okay, but at the end of the day, if you want an actual audience or a community or something like that on the internet, it has to be something that someone else gets some kind of value out of as well. So I have a hard time imagining what that might be, doing something like this, but I'm trying to figure out. I know what it is in certain cases, for sure. It depends what you're shooting, but my life is pretty static at the moment, so I'm trying to figure out a way. Wow, traffic's a little rough here. Give me a moment. There we go. They're stopping. Good. Anyway, I'm trying to find a way to figure out what kind of value can I bring. So we'll see. I do have a hard time with that sometimes. Like, I know that I do, but I don't always know what it is. And I know that I can get, improve in that, but it's hard to know exactly how. So you kind of have to do it too. You have to try, you have to figure it out. And that's what I'm going to try to figure out. Anyway, got to go to work. Be back shortly. Made it home on my break. Testing out
that to try to mitigate the wind, the sound of the wind. We're going to see how that works. One thing I've been thinking about that I haven't brought up on this channel much at all is politics, mainly because I don't like politics, which means politically that lands me in, well, if you're going to still think about it and still be interested in terms of watching things happen and trying to understand what might happen, and political philosophy and whatever, then you end up in libertarian land. Because while that means you're pretty much anti-political, at least in terms of us governing each other / ourselves, which is closer to the ideal. It's more of a matter of, well, this is the reality that we have to deal with, so it's worth and it's valuable to try to understand these things sometimes. But sometimes it's a total waste of time, right? And talking about it and getting angry about it and all of that can be a total waste of time too. I think it can be interesting to have these conversations with other people who actually want to have a conversation. But most of the time what you see is at least one person is not interested in a conversation. Often both people are not really, right? So that stuff gets frustrating. Or sometimes, it can be fun if the person that you agree with is doing better. I mean, it can be fun to see like the stuff you agree with being challenged too, because then right. But so what that pretty much means, though, is this most recent election, I didn't bother to vote because it's a waste of time, in the sense that had I voted for somebody, whoever, the outcome would have been exactly the same, right? So obviously, if everybody didn't vote, then that'd be a different situation. But that's not the world we're living in, and that's not likely to happen. So given reality, voting is pretty much, at least presidentially, I mean, local issues is a different scenario, I would say. But even then, you could probably make the same argument. It's just less dramatic. But there's a much higher chance that your single vote counts locally. A lot of people don't vote for a lot of different reasons. And I think a lot of it is they sense, like, is this worth my time? It's not, I don't think it's because people can't figure out how or something. Hear that sometimes. Anyway, I'm on my break. I got to go back to work shortly, figure out what the evening's going to bring. That's enough politics for now. Obviously, if somebody wants to actually talk about it, hit me up in the comments. If it's not in good faith, or if I don't think it is, I may ignore it, but I probably won't delete it unless it's just outright rude or mean or something. Even that, it'd have to be pretty bad. It'd be bad enough that YouTube would probably take care of it for me, We'll see.
Okay, survived the workday. And I realized Last of Us Season 2 is going, and I watched that first episode, and I haven't watched the second. And I'm expecting a certain thing to happen. And I don't know if for sure what happens, but it should be in this second episode. I know what happens in the game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they execute this, because I think it'll give me a pretty good indication into what this adaptation of this second story is going to be. There's been little hints that there's some changes, but mostly they've been sticking pretty straight to it, and I think I like some of the changes in that first episode, or at least I don't have a problem with the changes. I mean, honestly, I'd be okay if they really tried something different, but I don't think they're going to go too far off the reservation. We'll see, though. I'm going to go watch that second episode, but first, here's another flavor that I didn't try yesterday. And yeah, that was yesterday. It's the day after Easter still. I think I mentioned that earlier. Okay, peach. Peach. It's a very strong peach flavor. I've been sort of, I mean, I don't think I'll buy these again just because, you know, there's a little bit too much flavor. I would actually like more of a seltzer version of these where the flavor toned back a little. But the flavors here are very strong and very accurate. And the alcohol flavor is not unpleasant. It's pretty minimal. And I'm not getting a lot of heavy, like, malt. Maybe they're not, I don't know. They must be, but maybe they're not. I'm not getting like the malty, gross, like Mike's Hard Lemonade taste. But I'm very much getting the monster flavor. So even though they took the energy blend out, they left the flavor of of that in there. So be forewarned. But you know, not bad. Interesting thing to try. Probably never gonna have them again. But it's not because I think they're bad. Very peachy. Hope you like peaches for that one. Okay, Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2. I'll be back in 3, 2, 1. Alright, I'm watching it. Abby and company are in a house that looks just like the house from the game. And there's a freaking bag of golf clubs right there. So, we'll see. But things are looking pretty familiar, let's say. And as much as I don't love the way this happens in the game, they're doing a better job here of explaining why this is about to happen, probably anyway, than the game did. The game decided, chose to hold that information back for a while, as I remember it anyway, because it came out of nowhere. And there's a reason why that makes sense probably in the game. But the overall choice, which of this story beat itself, you can't change it without dramatically changing the story. But yeah, that's still something I don't know. I just didn't like it at the time that much. I don't love it now. But at the same time, if this is the story you're going to tell, it makes sense in that context of that. So maybe I'm wishing there was a different story being told entirely. I don't know. But at the same time, despite my feelings towards that aspect of the game, at least, seeing this set up the way it is, and I think Abby's actually an improvement, the actress here so far. Not that the performance was necessarily a problem in the game, but let's just say the the way Abby looks in the game is somewhat unrealistic. Not impossible, entirely impossible, but pretty pretty unrealistic or unlikely. This is more realistic, and I'm interested to see if that changes anything. So we're going to find out, but my point is, like, I actually got excited here because it's like, oh my god, they're going for it, which I expect them to go for it. But the attention to detail when they choose to like try to hit something as accurately as possible to the game, they really do a really good job of that, and that was true in the first season too. I don't know if there's a bunch of hate towards this or just dislike towards this. I'm looking forward to going to see the reactions of people who didn't play the game, how they react to this. There's definitely going to be, assuming it goes the same way, there's going to be some pushback for sure, let's say. So let's see if they do it. And the other aspect is, well, we'll talk about it later, but the choices let's say, viewpoint character in the game are a big point of contention. And they don't really, they're going to obviously switch viewpoints around here, but it's not like the impact of how it is in the game. It's not going to be the same thing as the show because you can't do it in the same way. So I'm interested to see how they play that card, so to speak. So let's see. Anyway, let's see if this setup. I mean, they're at least referencing what happened in the game directly here. Let's see if it happens. Okay, so I haven't gotten to the moment yet, but so far things are going very similarly. Although there are some definite changes, which so far are fine. Yeah. But I'm glad Eugene's stash is still there in some form, although it's different, and it's Ellie and what's his name instead of Ellie and Dina there, which is interesting. They chose to do that. But they have Joel saving Abby, which is not too dissimilar from how it went, except that Dina's with Joel. That's the biggest difference there. But clearly, things are headed towards the lodge where Abby's friends are staying right now. Now, there's additions, and there's more, because since they changed the cordyceps thing for the show into like the root system or whatever, and that root system is showing up in the old pipes underneath the city of Jackson, and they disturbed the root system so that alerts, and it was alive, so that alerts the infected, and now they're attacking the town, or about to be. So that's a pretty cool addition. It makes a lot more sense, kind of, in a way. Now, I don't know what the outcome's going to be yet, but I think I'm enjoying the adaptation here. But the big question still remains: are they going to do it? They have to do it, right? But how are they going to do it? There's lots of ways to not totally do it. So I don't know what I'm rooting for. I mean, they have to do it because they're going to have to change the whole story if it. Yeah. So the question is how. And so far, I like how they've set this up better than how it was set up in the game. That's my first impression. I like this setup better. Let's see how it works out ultimately. But a really good episode. And this edition also of the infected sort of burying themselves under their own dead to keep, I don't know if it's to keep, I forget what it was, but it's to survive. They're being smart. They're a little bit more evolved. I mean, that was going on in the game a little bit. Not this specific way. Very visually creepy. But let's see how they pay it off. Let's find out. I finished it. And yeah, they did it. They did it. They did it, and they did it very well. And I hated it just as much as I hated it, or hate might be the wrong word. It's just, man, the choice they made to tell this story requires that something like this happens, and this is definitely the way to do it, to tell this story. I don't know that they needed to tell the story, but I like the cycle of violence story, or this is this part of humanity exists, this impulsive, revenge, obsessive thing. It exists, and it is, and I believe, at least, this is why war exists. It's because we do this. And this is why long-term conflicts exist, because no one will stop exacting revenge. No one will take the right. And this is a really great way to tell that story, I think. And I get, you know, I get, and I don't completely disagree with the complaints from the game about the story necessarily, but some of that's been taken care of. I think Abby's better in the show. I still like Ellie better in the game, at least. I prefer that, but I think I like Abby in the show better. Definitely, it feels like a better. Like she's supposed to be like the foil, but not really a foil. She's like the same thing as Ellie, right? Basically, she creates. Yeah, they're very similar, and that, of course, is a part of this story and how things play out. But you know, they did it very well, and I did, yeah. And I had the same reaction to I fucking don't want Joel to die. I don't want him to die. Do not. That's not the game or the story I want. But that's the story they chose to tell, and I do appreciate, like I said, the cycle of violence commentary, because I think that's very important. I'm not huge about having to have messages in media and entertainment, but if you're going to, like, that's one that I'm all about. Let's tease this apart and see if we can get more people to transcend their nature, maybe. But that's a yeah. You want to get me on the let's make messages and try to make the world a better place bandwagon. That's the message that I probably would be the most okay with. So I have a hard time like hating the choice to tell that story because I like that message. And it's important, I think. But is this game gonna like tip the scale? No, I don't think so. Not really. But it's a good conversation to have. It gets a little bit just, I think, diluted by the fact that, man, you really like Joel, and that, yeah. And so, yeah, you're supposed to kind of yourself want revenge, I think, too. But again, it always comes down to, in the heat of the moment back at the end of season 1 or the first story, they're not willing to let Joel have a conversation with Ellie. They're not willing to talk to him about it. They got to do it right now, blah, 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 blah. So he makes that choice. And again, here with Abby and Joel, like, no one tries to have a conversation about, well, wait a second, why did Joel do this? Not that it would necessarily justify anything, but like understanding why can diffuse. So it's a little frustrating to me, and it's in both the game and the show. That is not even attempted. No one's even attempting to ask why. Not the people around Abby, nothing. At least certainly not in the moment, right? She's got Joel there. Why did you do this? That's a pretty reasonable question that does not come out of her mouth. I don't love that. I would have liked that to have been addressed. Yeah. Because obviously they had to kill him. He could have given a crap answer to it or refused to answer, and at least the opportunity would have been there, and that makes it even. But here it's more like, look, you didn't even try. Now, does that happen in real life in these situations? Yeah. Yeah, so it fits. It's just my preference. Like, that's the thing that comes into my mind, so you deal with it if you're writing that scene. Go ahead and deal with it. Find a way around it. Don't just omit it. That's my preference. But they nailed it. They did nail what they were doing. And it's a good episode. And the whole, fight with the infected or the monsters or whatever they're calling them is pretty well done. It's a cool addition to actually see that happen. And the bloater flamethrower fight was pretty cool looking. So, it was a smart move to pull everybody into danger, not just Joel, Ellie, Dina in danger. So it looks like they are full on going down the same road with very minimal changes. So, and the changes are mostly additive, or they don't cause a problem. And I do think they set this up better so that when it happens, you understand why. Because as I recall in the game, when it happens, you don't know why. You don't know. Yeah, I don't think she explains it. Plus, they didn't show you that, like, her side of it till later, I don't think. Maybe I'm misremembering that. It's been a while. So that is an interesting choice. It does make it work better. They got less time to tell this story, so it makes sense. And I think it would have worked better in the game this way, sort of, except, I don't know, they really wanted you to hate Abby a lot without understanding why, and to have to play as her before fully understanding anything. So they rub it in your face a lot harder in the game, although we'll see what they do here. So I'm very interested to see how they choose to do this moving forward, but really, this was the main moment I wanted to see. I was hoping they would really try something very different, and I knew that wasn't likely, because it is a very impactful choice, and it does enable and allow for the story they're telling, which I do like, highlighting, hey, someone's got to be willing to stop retaliating at some point for this crap to stop, right? That someone's got to do it and take the risk, right? And then if that goes bad, someone else has got to be willing to. It's very hard. It's a very tall order, but that's why it's worth talking about so much. Anyway, I'm going to keep watching the season. I may not make a video for every episode, but there's something to talk about. I'm sure it'll come up in these videos I'm making lately, which are not purely reviews anyway. So, with that said, I think the day is done. That's going to do it. Until tomorrow, and I'm going to start something fresh at that point. I still kind of want to rewatch the Chronicles of Riddick. I haven't watched that in a while. Maybe that'll be tomorrow. Devil's Own is still on the table. All kinds of stuff I own and haven't watched yet is on the table. I still need to redo some Rippaverse. I need to, read some of the Rippaverse stuff I bought and or review some of it that I haven't. That's all in my head as part of this. I just don't want it to just be that. I want to try a different format. That's why I'm doing this. Plus, it's just more enjoyable. This is more enjoyable for me. Hopefully, it's more enjoyable for anyone else watching. So subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side.